You see it all the time, right? A big company gets caught cooking the books, the headlines go wild, but then what? The common thinking is, well, not much. They pay a fine that's basically pocket change for them, get a little slap on the wrist, and it's business as usual. But you have to wonder, is that really the whole story? Let's take a look at what the data actually tells us.
I mean, this feeling is just, it's everywhere. This quote from Forbes, it just hits the nail on the head. Where are the indictments? It perfectly captures this widespread feeling that no matter how much damage these companies cause with financial fraud, the penalties are just way too light. It kind of makes you think, maybe for these big corporations, crime does pay.
So that's the big question we're going to tackle here. Is it actually true? Do companies really get away with cooking the books? Well, we're about to find out, because we're going to dig into this huge study that tracked hundreds of companies to uncover the real cost of this stuff.
Okay, so let's start with the official side of things, the punishment. You know, when a company gets caught, what are the actual on-the-books legal penalties they have to pay up? Now, the data we're looking at here comes from a pretty landmark academic study. Researchers went through every single one of the 585 firms that the SEC charged with financial fraud over a 25-year period. So yeah, this isn't just a few stories here and there. This is the whole shebang, the complete picture. And you want to know the number they found? Okay, get this. The average legal penalty per firm, and that's combining all the fines, all the lawsuit payouts, was just $23.5 million. I mean, for a huge corporation, that really does feel like a slap on the wrist, right? So far, it kind of seems like the popular opinion is spot on.
But, and this is a big but, this is where the story takes a massive turn. See, while the courts are handing out these little penalties, the stock market, well, it's delivering its own verdict. And let me tell you, that verdict is absolutely brutal.
So the moment the news of the fraud gets out, the average company in this study lost 38% of its value on the stock market. 38%! And we're not talking about a slow decline over years. No, this was a sharp, immediate drop, directly tied to the news breaking. It's just a staggering collapse, and there's no way that tiny fine explains a loss this big.
Okay, let's put these two numbers right next to each other so you can see it clearly. The official penalty from the courts, a little under $24 million. The actual value that just vanished from the company's stock, almost $400 million. The market's punishment is more than 15 times bigger than the legal one. That's insane.
And right there, that's our central mystery. If the official fines are just this tiny little piece of the pie, where in the world is the rest of that nearly $400 million loss coming from? What is it that the market is punishing so severely?
All right, to solve this mystery, the researchers did something pretty smart. They broke down that total market loss into 3 separate pieces. You can think of it like looking at the anatomy of a corporate collapse. First up, you've got the part we already talked about, the legal penalties. You know, the direct cost of fines from regulators, payouts from lawsuits. It's the most obvious one, but as we're about to see, it's actually the smallest piece of the puzzle. Okay, the second piece is what they call the readjustment effect. Now, this isn't really a penalty. It's simply the market correcting the lie. It's erasing the fake value the company just made up. Think about it like this. If you find a $100 bill in your wallet and realize it's a counterfeit, you haven't been fined $100. You just realize you never actually had that money in the first place. That's the readjustment. And that brings us to the third piece. And honestly, this is the big one. Reputation loss. This is the real kind of invisible cost. It's all about the future business a company loses simply because trust has been shattered. You know, customers, suppliers, investors, they all start to back away, or at the very least, they start demanding much tougher terms to do business. And here it is. This is the answer to our mystery. When you actually break it all down, those legal penalties, they account for less than 9% of the total loss. The market just correcting the lie, that readjustment, that's about a quarter of it. But a staggering 2/3, yeah, the vast majority of the damage comes from just one thing: losing your reputation. So we know reputation is the key, right? But the study goes even deeper. It actually boils all of this down to a simple, really powerful rule that puts an exact number on the cost of a lie. Let me walk you through how it works. Dollar for dollar. Imagine a company cooks its books to create just $1 single of fake value. Step 1, the truth comes out, and boom, it loses that dollar. That's the readjustment we talked about. Step 2, for that same dollar of fraud, it loses another 36 cents in expected legal penalties. And then, finally, on top of all that, it loses a completely crushing $2.71 from its totally shredded reputation.
So let's just be super clear about this. For every single dollar a company fakes, it doesn't just lose that dollar back. No, it loses that dollar plus an additional $3.08 in penalties and reputational damage. The total damage is more than 4 times the size of the original lie. That's just wild.
And hey, let's put that reputational damage into perspective for a second. The study found that the loss from reputation, just from reputation alone, is more than 7.5 times larger than all the legal penalties combined. It's not even in the same league. So the question is, why? Why is this hit to a company's reputation so massive? Why does the market punish dishonesty so much more severely than the legal system ever could? Well, it's because a company's financial statements, they're not just numbers. They are its fundamental promise to the world. And when you prove that that promise is a lie, suddenly everything else about you becomes suspect. Your customers start questioning your products. Your suppliers start demanding cash up front. Lenders look at you and see a massive risk, so they jack up your interest rates. The credibility that a business needs to even function, it just evaporates. And this all leads us to the single most important takeaway here. That whole idea that companies get off easy, it's based on looking only at the legal fines. But the reality is, the market itself, through the complete destruction of a company's reputation, imposes a penalty that is way faster, way bigger, and way more devastating than anything the legal system could ever cook up. Which, leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to chew on. If this silent, powerful force of the market is already the true enforcer of corporate honesty, then what's the role of regulation? If a damaged reputation is the real punishment, does that change what fines and rules are even for? That is definitely something worth thinking about.